Today's guest is a father who saw his son's dreams slipping away, and instead of standing by, he took action. From excavators to esports, he didn't just support from the sidelines, he built a team, a culture, and a vision of what's possible in the world of competitive gaming. If you're a parent, a gamer, or someone chasing a passion while juggling real life, this one's for you. Let's welcome the founder of an up and coming esports organisation, excavator business owner, and full time believer in backing your kids all the way, Ben Savage. Welcome to Rise and Thrive Conversations for Greatness.
Yeah, thanks, John. It's good to be here.
Been really looking forward to this interview since we met at the tournament. We'll get to that in a minute, but I'd like to kick things off with your story. So, how did a dad running an excavator business end up founding an esports team?
Yeah, well, where to start? So I was pretty big into motorsport in the 90s, sort of late 90s, and got a fair way up, and basically just ran out of money. My dad was good at helping me, did everything he could, but he wasn't really business minded. And motorsport world requires very business minded people behind the scenes. You can't just be the best driver, which I thought I was, but you have to have a lot of backing. So when I had my son, I did take him driving when he was young, and he kind of didn't like it, which I was very happy about because motorsport's very expensive. He then developed a passion for gaming. It wasn't unhealthy. It was just one game. It was Minecraft. He didn't just play on computers, on PlayStations, and switch games every hour and just play for 7, 8, 9, 10 hours and just mindlessly play games. He really focused on Minecraft. He went to a few Minecraft camps, and
Yeah.
he was sort of 8 years old going to camps where there was 13, 14-year-olds, and he ended up running the thing because he knew everything. So then at the age of about 10, he switched over to a game called Counter-Strike. It's the biggest esport sort of game in the world. Millions and millions of people play it. So I first saw him playing it at that age, about 12, about 10. In the computer was in my lounge room, so I could see what he was doing. And I saw him playing this shooting game. It's a 5v5 game. I'm sure we'll talk about it later. But so I thought I better check into this just to make sure what it's like. So I once I started looking into the game itself, I was infatuated by it. It's a brilliant game, very strategic, a lot of teamwork involved, huge amounts of training, and then started looking into the industry, and I was amazed at actually how big the esport industry is. So I nurtured him. He wanted to play that and wanted to be a professional at it. I sort of nurtured him all the way through and allowed him to play, but I always balanced it. So I was conscious of the fact, you don't want to be the old stereotype of a little fat kid playing computer games and never doing anything else. Go out and play in the dirt and run around and chase traffic and stuff like that. So I made sure that it was balanced. So he still had to play football. I was coaching his football team since he was 5. So he still had to play football.
Yeah.
And go to all the training sessions. When cricket season was on, he'd play cricket, go to training. As long as he did okay, well at school. Then any time outside of that, he was okay to play. To a certain extent, he can't keep playing till 12 o'clock at night. But so I nurtured that. And then at the age of about 16, so he was up and coming, and he started fairly early. Normally, kids start this game at about 15 or 16.
Yep.
So he got a big jump on them. So at the age of 16, he was already very well known in the community in Australia anyway. So he got picked up by probably the sixth or maybe the 6th or 7th best team in Australia.
Yep.
And was easily the best in that. And it wasn't long before he was in the 2nd best team in Australia. They then qualified for all these events overseas, Germany, Sweden. We went to Germany, Sweden, America, and Romania all in 1 year.
Wow.
When he was sort of 17.
Yep.
So from that, he got picked up by a Chinese team. Then he moved back to Australia because there was something wrong with the contracts. And then I said to him, look, why don't you if you want to chase your dream, then you should really go to Europe. He was going to kind of stop, and I convinced him in that. And that basically came from when I was in the 90s when I was driving. I probably should have done that.
Right.
I should have just packed up and just gone and moved to Europe or moved to America or something like that.
Yep.
And just chase it, right?
Yeah.
So a bit like what the soccer players do here. You know, if you really want to make it in soccer, you can't just stay in Australia. You have to go overseas. So he did that, and then while overseas, he was with a pretty decent team up over there. He went by himself. He was 18. He put a deposit down on a house, just a rental in Sheffield. He had to pay 6 months in advance. So he did that, and about 2 months in, the team folded on him, and so he was a bit dejected. And there was other teams looking at him, but that was when I thought, you know what? Why don't we try and start a team in Australia and get him back here? And that's where it all began. Really, I didn't have the money to do it. It's nothing like a motorsport team money, but it does require a bit to set it up and pay the players, because the players have to be paid. So I approached friends, family, colleagues, put together a big investor deck and presented to all of them, and set up a company with 100 shares and sold the shares for $4,000 each at a 1% stake. So that's how it came apart. I managed to pull it off, um, and got James, my son, back, and two other really decent Australian players, or two of the best Australian players. But I also imported a couple of European kids, so two European players, which is allowed as long as there's three Australians and two from overseas. It's classified as an Australian team, and that's how it began. That Semper Fi was born.
Wow. So, from your days in the motorsport world, you could apply some of those learnings to the kind of team, esports team. That's one of the things that I really noticed when I was at the tournament the other night, and after we had a chat as well, is that how big it is. We were literally there's in a stadium that holds about 15,000 people watching teams 5v5, as you said, Ben,
Yeah,
playing Counter Strike. The atmosphere was electric. And then I also didn't realize how there's a lot of like team swapping and all this kind of thing. Very similar comparisons, I thought, to Formula One racing, where
yeah, yeah.
people
It
go
is.
to different teams. I'd say that the connection between this and motorsports in the way you think about things and how you have to set things up was really hit home when we were talking. And like what you're saying now, so it was really great that you could see some of the things that might have helped you chase your dreams, but you could help your son do that as well. So that's wonderful. Just goes to show, you never know where those learnings can be useful. And even though you might not have, I'm sure you had a great career and talented driver, but you could see what was missing if you wanted to go to those extra levels, and you could help your son James
Mm.
do that with his passion. It's wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, the first time I knew how big it was he was 12, and he said, "Oh, Dad, can we go to Sydney?" This was 8 years ago now, so 2017. And I said, "Well, why do you want to go to Sydney?" And he goes, "Oh, there's a big tournament there with all the big teams from Europe coming down to play in the Counter Strike world." And so I'd watched a couple of games with him online, and thought, "Oh, okay, well, all right, well, I'll book it in." So I booked the flights for us, just him and I. It was pretty good fun, actually. Anyway, I booked a little accommodation near the centre. It was in the Kudos Bank Arena, which is like the tennis centre in Melbourne.
Mm,
And I thought the Kudos Bank Arena, so it's going to be one of those little, the little rooms that are down the bottom or something like that. I thought there'd be a couple hundred people there.
yeah,
Anyway, we walked into the stadium, and like you say, when you saw it, it's a similar thing. There's like 10,000 people there. The place was going nuts,
yeah.
and I looked at him and said, "Oh, James, yeah, you've got to be a pro in this. This is definitely something that you need to do." So I knew how big it was back then, but yeah, hopefully it works for us.
And so that was the moment where you really thought, okay,
Yeah,
let's go full into
yeah.
this
Well,
and see where it takes us.
I didn't think of starting my own team up then.
Yep,
Obviously, I
yep,
just thought of doing everything I can to help him achieve his
gotcha.
his dreams.
Yep.
So yeah, really the team thing started when he just kept getting messed around by other teams. The industry is it's very new, I guess. So there's a lot of teething problems still going through the sport.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of consolidation, a lot of teams paying too much money to their players asking for too much money, not realizing, you know, the top teams in the world making millions and millions of dollars. So that the top esport team,
Mm.
well, esport organization is valued at over $400 million. So
Jesus.
so it's big,
Yeah.
yeah. So it can be big.
That's massive. And the I think the prize money in the tournament we saw was $1 million.
Yeah, a million divided by the whole lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they play those tournaments quite regularly, actually.
Yep. So is that like one of the kind of regular tournaments rather than like a world pro tournament or something? Is it a bit like not golf, but you know what I mean,
Yeah,
or tennis where you have
similar.
those premium events as well?
Yes. Yeah, it is. So these events, there's about three tournament organisers that do worldwide tournaments. They
Mm.
probably do 15 to 20 each. They're the really big ones
Hmm.
that you need to qualify for.
Yep.
There are two majors each year,
Right.
so two major events. But then in between those, they're kind of like the Australian Open and say Wimbledon,
Yep.
and then there's lots of other. They're smaller, but they're still quite large, as you saw. They're like the Masters tournament
Yeah.
events, or in the tennis, or
Yep.
I don't know, the Australian Open golf. So it's
Yep.
not quite the US Masters, but it's still they're
Well,
still very big. So
still
and then
amazing.
there's a multitude of other events under those.
Yep.
So lots of smaller events. The
Yep.
boys just got back from Shanghai. They played a tournament in Shanghai where there was still on stage and everything, and it was telecasted, hundreds of thousands of people, but the actual crowd size there was about 500. So
Yep.
there's smaller events leading up to the big ones.
Yes, and it's all streamed around the world as well. So it might, even though it's massive. This was the tournament that Ben and I were at. It was a 4-day tournament. It was sold out all 4 days. So there's around 15,000 people coming through every day for 4 days. And as you
Yeah, it's
say,
huge.
hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people watching the
Yeah,
streams.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so the telecast or not television rights because it's streaming on the internet though,
That's
but
on Twitch. Yeah,
the they are doing really well out of it as well. So this is not really an underground thing. It's absolutely massive. It's just that if you're not exposed to that world, you don't know how massive it is, and that's what struck me. And as a gamer, it excited me as well. So I actually I never played CS:GO, and then after we met, I downloaded it and played a few games with
oh yeah.
a few of
How'd
my
you go?
mates. Loved it, loved it
Yeah, yeah, it's a good game.
because it's simple enough, and we talked about this the other night, but it's simple enough to get the concepts, but it takes a fair bit of time to master. So it's not like I was mastering it, but I could easily play it and have fun with it.
It's I liken it a lot to chess,
Mm,
and people might think, oh, that's a bit weird, but it's a game that you can very easily learn. So it's a pretty, like you say, it's a simple concept, and it's like teaching a 5-year-old how to play chess. The pawns do this, the knights do this,
mm,
the rooks do this, etc.
mm,
So technically, a 5-year-old is playing chess, and they can play chess,
mm.
but there's playing and then there's playing.
Yeah.
So you can never ever really master chess.
Yep.
I mean, even the grandmasters haven't. They say they haven't even mastered it, but
Yep.
this game is very similar. So these guys are at the top. There's at any one moment people playing Counter Strike. There's 2 million. So right now there's 2 million people playing Counter Strike, and you can see that from the stats. You just
Yeah.
look on Steam, and so this is 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So the guys that get to the top at the level my son's at, and his teammates, we're ranked 40th in the world or something like that now, but they are at the 0.1% of all of these players. So
Yeah.
they're the elite of the elite. So when you play, if you play against these guys, there's it's like playing a grandmaster. There's no point; they'll just slaughter you.
Yeah, yeah. I think for those rise and thrivers that don't know what Counter Strike is, you'll explain it way better than I will. But go for it for those that don't know. So now they know how big the esports gaming industry is. Now they know 2 million people every day
Yeah,
are playing this game.
playing it.
Let them know what it is and how you play it.
Yeah. So it's a 5v5 game. There are it's like tag. I liken it to say skirmish, if you like, where if you get tagged, you're out for that round. There's 7 different maps that you can play on, so you can choose one of those 7 maps, and each map is similar but different. There's different tactics and strategies involved in each of the maps.
And it's voted on, isn't it, before the round that the players get to
Yes,
vote on which map they want to play, and the one with the highest votes wins.
yeah. So teams specialize in certain maps.
Gotcha.
It's a bit like Nadal specializing on clay and Federer on grass,
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
yeah.
So So there's the 5v5. There's 24 rounds. 12 rounds is played on the defending side, and 12 rounds is played on the attacking side. So after 12, you pick one side. You might be defending. So you have to defend two sites on the map, and there's a certain area within that site where you have to plant a bomb. I don't like saying plant a bomb, but that's what they do.
Yep.
And it's a shooting game. So, but the rounds only last 2 minutes. So it starts with each team on either side of the map. And as I said, there's two sites that one team that is attacking has to plant the bomb within that 2 minute period.
Yep.
Once they plant the bomb, there's 30 seconds for it to explode, and the other team then has the ability to defuse that bomb.
Yep.
So that's how the rounds are played. If the bomb goes off, you win. If you eliminate the entire other team, you win, whether you've planted the bomb or not, or you defuse the bomb. So that's how you win a round, and it's first to 13. So you could play 12 rounds and it'd be 6 all, and then they'd switch sides, and then you go till 13. So that's the game in a nutshell. There are different types of weapons you can buy. There's a whole economy in the game. Each player specializes in different types of weapons, but there's also nades you can buy, which are utility. So there's smokes you can buy, which blocks off certain areas of the map. There's flashbangs where you can throw them and take ground, and I mean, it's the possibilities are endless.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's
So that's basically the game in a nutshell. So it's very simple.
Yep.
You get a bomb and you need to plant it on a site. The other team needs to stop you from doing that or defuse it.
And that's it. Yeah. Love that summary there. How simple it is. Now the other part of it is the economy of the game. So weapons can have skins. For people that don't know, that's like a paint job or something on your weapons, or trinkets or something that you can hang
Yeah,
on.
like an NFT it is. It's basically an NFT.
Yeah. And what has always fascinated me from, a gamer from way back is that this game is free to download and play.
Yeah.
But if you want to dress your character up or have a particular skin or trinket or whatever, you pay for that, and that's where the economy of the game comes into it. So you think, well, how are they making any money if it's free to download and play? They're making their money on those cosmetics in the game, which fascinates me because maybe I'm just not up with it, right? But I don't care if my gun's red or has stripes on it or a trinket on it or whatever. But it's really important to the gamers, isn't it?
It is. It's funny. James asked me when he was about 12. His birthday was coming up. I said, what would you like for your birthday? He said, oh, can you get me a skin? They call them skins, which it's just a graphics file that you buy, and it downloads into the game itself, and it goes onto the gun or the knife, or you can get gloves as well. That's the only thing you can change. You can't change the actual character, but and they become then. It's a bit like motorsport wise. It's a bit like someone getting their helmet painted. It becomes unique to them. It's known, especially if you're a big time player. The people that are watching see that skin. You can sell that skin. Skins are worth. There's rare ones. There's ones you can get that just aren't anything. And then outside of that, there's a whole industry around trading all of these skins. So, for example, I bought James a $250 knife skin. I mean, they don't even use knives in the game, really. They're there, but they don't use them.
Yeah.
But they're some of the most expensive ones. And I think it was $250, and he sold that a couple of years ago for about $3,000. So there's a whole new economy in it. That's and there's an economy in the game, but this is just for the well, yeah, that's the skins.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
quite amazing.
That's where the money comes in, and that's where at the big major events, and that's hence me starting the team. I don't know whether we're going to get into this later, but I can go into it now.
Well, because I did want to. So we've talked about the game, how James, your son, ended up being in a team, the challenges he had, but still went overseas to follow his dreams, backed by you and go for it. And then the team folded, which in a way, for me, sitting back looking at your story, at the time might have been a bit devastating considering all the effort and money and everything gone. But what it led to was you taking control and stepping in and creating this organisation. And the team's called Semper Fi, and I love you to explain the story behind naming the team that. So let's do that because I love it. So
Yeah. So once I decided to start a team, the first thing we need to do is get a name. So one of the best teams in the world is called Navi or Nav. Natus Vincere, I think is the name. It's a Latin word.
Hmm.
I forget even what it means. I did look it up. There's another one called Virtus Pro, which is, I think, also Latin. So I like the Latin sort of style with a meaning. So I was looking up different Latin words and meanings, and I saw the Semper Fi, which stands for Semper Fidelis, which is Latin for always faithful, and it's also the motto for the U.S. Marines. So and they shorten it down to Semper Fi.
Mm.
And I thought, well, it's kind of a shooting game. It's a team game. You stick together as a team. You don't leave anyone behind. So to me, it just popped out.
Mm.
So that's where the name came from. I liked it.
I think it's absolutely perfect. And that connection to the Marines is also, whether
Yes.
you realised it or did it on purpose at the time, is marketing gold because every
Mm.
Marine should be backing your team.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, well, actually, interesting enough, the U.S. Air Force do sponsor a lot of big events,
Right.
big esports events in the States.
Yep.
So maybe that's someone I should be talking to. Maybe give Donald Trump a call and see if U.S. Marines want to sponsor us.
Excellent. And you've gone with for those listening and not watching us on YouTube, you can see Ben there with wearing the green and gold. So that's got to be a bit of a Aussie
It
connection
was,
there.
yeah. I definitely wanted to go green and gold because of Australian.
Yep.
I mean, the Semper Fi is sort of more American, so
Yep.
it's a bit of a mix.
Yep.
But I loved, I always loved the green and gold, the boxing kangaroo and things like that. So that's how we created the shirt.
Yep.
They're a little bit different than some of the pro shirts. We've got a collar. It's more of a sort of a soccer style polo
Mm.
shirt,
Mm.
but it's been very well received. So a lot of people have commented on the look of the top. So
Yeah,
that's good.
it's a standout. I noticed that the other night, and I've watched a few tournaments since. I'm a little bit hooked now.
Yeah.
I love it. And
Yeah.
so, what's the biggest learning curve or thing that you've found managing Semper Fi in the team? Because you've got 5 young men to look
Mm,
after. Is that's how it's working?
that's correct. So the biggest thing is getting it to a position where I can sustain the team because I mean I have to pay them. So the prize money for tournaments at our level is okay. It's not enough to retire on. You really have to make the majors. So it's trying to work out how I run the team so it's successful without making the major championships. I mean that's our goal is to make the major
Of
championships.
course, yeah.
Um, but it'd be nice to know that we'll keep going irrespective of whether we make the major championships or not. So the business model is very I'm still trying to work that out, and so are a lot of esport teams, and a lot of esport teams have actually folded because they haven't worked that out. They've put together a team, they've tried to make a major, and they haven't, and then they fold. So we just missed out on the major last month. We came second. We had to come first in Australia, and we just missed out in the final. So that was a little bit dejected. I'm a little bit dejected, but the boys got up and we're going again. There's another one in December, so that's probably the biggest thing. Then there was also to get the Europeans here. So the 2 European boys, we actually got. They're both from Latvia. Picked up one really good player who was right on the sort of cusp of the tier one sort of level. So tier one is the top sort of 20 teams in the world, and tier two is sort of 20 to 50. So he was on sort of that level nearly breaking into tier one. So I was really fortunate to get his services. And then he picked up a younger kid in Latvia who he said is going to be a gun. So I brought those two over. That was hard. I had to organise
Mm.
visas for them. I'm actually going through the process of trying to get another visa for them. And then to get them here, I couldn't pay them as much as they get in Europe.
Yep.
So part of the deal was they're living at my house. I've got 2 Latvian boys at my house. I've got obviously my son, myself, and now one of the other team members is living there now. So I've been pushed into the garage. So I actually sleep in the garage now. I had this beautiful, beautiful room with an ensuite and a walk-in robe. Well, that's gone. Then I moved to the other room. Now it's gone. I'm in I'm in the I'm in
But
the garage.
Ben, this is I got to break in there because this just really highlights and it's really great for and inspiring for me and our listeners to hear and others around the world is that when you have a dream and you're committed to it, you'll do what it takes. And
Yeah,
the
yeah,
next, if that's what you've got to do, uh, you've
yep,
said I'm going to give that a go and I'm going to do this because this is the best way to get to the next step to where we want to go. And I don't just want to brush over that you guys came second in Australia in that tournament and the first was. So
mm,
I know that would have been a little bit disappointing, but at the same time,
yeah,
sometimes they say you've got to lose one to win one, but you're
yeah,
so close. It's not like you're
mm,
out of the ballpark or anything like that. You are so close to
they're
breaking
right
in
there.
there.
Yeah, and we did rise pretty quickly. So um, as I said, they qualified for a China event.
Mm,
They qualified for a Mongolian event. They went there as well.
yeah.
We just missed a couple other qualifiers for Europe, but it all came down to that match against the Australian. We were actually number one at the time. They were number two. We were really close, but they hadn't played a few tournaments. They were just a little bit better than us. They've been together a bit longer,
Mm,
so it was a good effort.
mm.
I think another 6 months together will be a lot stronger. The boys practice. They're doing 8 hour days, six days a week, so they're really training hard. So
That's amazing. It just goes to show, like, these guys are athletes. People might not think of them as such, but they're putting in as much or is, if not more time than professional athletes do. I actually really love that they're living at your place because it's such a team game. The closer they are, the more they know each other. I'm sure they're all for one and one for all and all the rest of it, but just that extra you must get by living together, doing things together because I did want to ask you. It is esports centric, but there's that other side of it as well, mindset training. So it's not just how good you are on the mouse and keyboard. It's like you said, strategy, mindset, because it gets pretty tense in there as well. So as you explained before, there's 24 rounds, and kind of like tennis, you can be down,
mm,
and we've seen that in tournaments, in that major tournament with the winner, that you could be
yeah,
six
it was
games
hell.
down. And then you've got to
Yeah,
back yourself. You've got to have that mindset to go, okay, what can I do about what's just happened? Nothing.
yeah,
What can I do about the next game? Give it my best, show up for my mates, be
yeah,
loyal, do what we've been practicing, and let's freaking win this next one. And,
yeah.
and so you could really see it's called esports for a reason. It's sport.